We are continuing in Proverbs chapter 19 with verse 26. He who robs his father and drives out his mother is a son who brings shame and disgrace. Jesus was talking to the Pharisees, and he mentioned that they were keeping their parents in penury because they were claiming their money was dedicated to God, and yet they were living in luxury. God has given us parents to be honored, respected, obeyed, and certainly treated with love and esteem. And if we don't treat our parents as those gifts of God, as authority placed over us, we do deserve, as the Old Testament would say, stoning. And certainly God says we deserve death. But robbing your father, taking the goods that your father has, driving out your mother, not letting her live in your home after she raised you, shame and disgrace. I think that's just a blunt description. I don't know how much more I could say. That person is scum. Moving on, 27. Stop listening to instruction, my son, and you will stray from the words of knowledge. We're told often it's better to hear than to speak, right? Close your mouth, open your ears, and you'll gain wisdom. And a young man, a person who has not experienced much of the world, who has not studied God's word in depth, should most certainly be keeping his ears open and listening to the hoary head. My head may not be white, that's what hoary means, but it is starting to fade into the back. And when I'm in my congregation, there are many members who have had more experience than I have. And I am wise to listen to them. When you're a young man in particular, or a young woman in particular, listen before you act, and it'll prepare you to act in a way which leads to life, which is consonant with God's word. 28. A corrupt witness mocks at justice, and the mouth of the wicked gulps down evil. So we were warned earlier that a mocker needs to be flogged. A corrupt witness, someone who says something other than truth when asked what occurred, they're making a mockery of the system, of the laws set up to keep people in an orderly and in a loving way together. And such a witness needs to be punished, not only to change their behavior, but also to set up that the system cannot be mocked, that God will not be mocked, and the authority he sets up should not be mocked. It has a purpose. And so when a person perjures themselves or lies, then yes, they deserve chastisement. And they need to be called out on those lies so that the system can be seen as one which works, which seeks justice for all. Now the second part, and the mouth of the wicked gulps down evil. So evil, what causes death, poison, when a wicked person opens their lips, not only does evil come out, but they also swallow it in and poison the rest of them. Their mouth is a thing of horror and danger that causes death for others, but also causes death for themselves. And that's the description here. They seek after what is wrong, and they enjoy it, like wine being swallowed down in large quantities. 29. Penalties are prepared for mockers and beatings for the backs of fools. As Solomon continues this theme, if you are there making fun of other people, not trying to correct and discipline, not trying to show them what is right according to God's word, but making fun of them, trying to tear them down, trying to destroy them, there's penalties. God has set up the penalties. Society has set up penalties and should enforce those penalties. In the second half, and beatings for the back of fools. Fools are those who seek after their own wisdom above God's wisdom, who seek after the things of death rather than things of life. The beatings are, again, for their own good, so that they can have that signal, stop it, don't do this. And also for society's good, so that we can have a limitation on sin. Move the other hand in. There we go. A limitation on sin, and not cross these boundaries, and society can work. So the beatings not only signal the person to change, but they also signal to others, don't do this or you too could get a beating. We're moving to chapter 20, verse 1. Wine is a mocker and beer a brawler. Whoever is led astray by them is not wise. In wine is truth, but also in wine is foolishness. So some wine frees you up from worrying about what other people are thinking and allows you to speak truth when otherwise you would try to hide it in back here. Maybe allows them to hear when otherwise they get angry. But too much wine leads to foolish talk. And instead of speaking truth, now you're just letting your tongue run wild. And that leads to violence. Too much beer leads to brawling. And this is a literal sense, but this is also in the sense that, again, when you loosen up too much and it goes beyond the point where you're getting rid of the worry about being embarrassed, but now you're getting into the I'm just not thinking. My mind is clouded. My mind is beclouded by alcohol. Then you often unleash things which should not have been said. Then you're ignoring your mother's advice. If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. Okay? So too much wine and too much beer can lead the wise to act like a fool. 2, the king's wrath is like the roar of a lion. He who angers him forfeits his life. The roar of a lion is a warning. I'm coming to get you. And the king's wrath is a warning. I'm coming to get you. And if the king comes to get you, you're dead. If the lion comes to get you, it's over, people. 3, it is to a man's honor to avoid strife, but every fool is quick to quarrel. The one time I nearly was in a fight, the words of my 6th grade teacher came back and he said, it's easier to fight than not to fight. And I would have been beaten up, so that's probably good. But 3 older boys were teasing me on my paper route. They threw mud on me as I was delivering papers. I grabbed the lapel of one of a junior, I was in 8th grade, junior in high school. I was his height, but certainly not his weight. And I was ready to throw down where I would have been thrown down. And those words came back. And I think this is to the credit of my teacher that he taught me that, to the credit of my parents that they taught me not to fight. And so honor is gained. Later on, I went with my father, and he talked with one of them, and so they stopped at least throwing mud at me. It is what it is. But here, it's honorable to avoid strife, but anybody can get into a quarrel. I mean, that's easy. That's simple. We're going to stop there. We will begin again in a moment. Or actually, let me make one final note. If you watch the presidential debate and you think of this statement, it is a man's honor to avoid strife, but every fool is quick to quarrel. All right, I'm going to leave that there. I'll talk to you in the next video.